The Messenger is a retro-fueled action platformer that plays just as fantastically as it sounds. I'm pleased to say that not only does The Messenger stand out amongst the deluge of 8 and 16-bit games flooding the market, it hybridizes these two eras in the most seamless way I've ever experienced. On a surface level, Sabotage Studio's game plays as a straightforward NES-era title with a pretty clear inspiration taken from the Ninja Gaidens and Castlevanias of the world. You play as a young ninja tasked with carrying a legendary scroll to the top of a mountain's peak, with your journey beginning just as the Demon King decides to rain evil upon the lands. You start with nothing but a sword, and slowly gather skills that allow you to cling to walls, strike enemies from a distance, and grapple onto surfaces that seem just out of reach. A major standout is the way your skills and abilities flow together to create a surprisingly smooth experience. If you died from a mistimed jump or an enemy that you thought you would evade, you would always feel like it was your fault rather than the game's. Most of the late-game puzzles make you feel like you've mastered the controls, although I did find myself getting frustrated at challenges that I knew how to complete, yet would have the unfortunate luck with getting the exact jumping sequences. I don't necessarily think this is a negative, however, as I felt I was learning something about the mechanics with each failure. Just as important as the look of a retro-style game like The Messenger is its soundtrack, and Rainbow Dragon Eye's score exceeds with soaring colors. I'm a sucker for the little touches like when the music becomes muffled when your character goes underwater, or when you get into a groove with the current stage track because you've managed to survive long enough to have it loop a few times. Without spoiling for story reasons, the mid to late game moments rely heavily on transitions from 8 to 16-bit styles, and it's impressive that the soundtrack follows suit at any given moment. Levels that you might have memorized the 8-bit versions for early in the game suddenly sound completely fresh as a 16-bit track, and vice versa. The track A Home Amongst the Clouds is a personal standout, evoking a sense of urgency while also reflecting the sacred tone of the ancient city in the sky. The story of The Messenger initially comes off as a straightforward tale of revenge against an evildoer for razing your lands. However, the story thankfully doesn't take itself too seriously at times. The shopkeeper is the character you'll likely have the most interaction with, not only providing valuable skill upgrades and hints should you need them, but also giving some much appreciated levity through stories you can listen to. The writing for the characters you'll meet are all generally enjoyable, with post-boss conversations often revealing a perspective of theirs that you wouldn't typically expect. The main story thread's resolution is mostly satisfying, however it does feel a bit dragged out at times during the roughly 15-hour campaign. There is a huge and memorable bait-and-switch around the 5-hour mark that completely changes the way the game plays from a story perspective, and I won't be surprised if other games take inspiration from this satisfying twist in the narrative. My game clock was timed at 17 hours and 49 minutes, however this was a complete playthrough with all areas explored, all collectibles found. If I had to guess, collectible hunting took about 2 to 3 hours of additional time for anything I hadn't come across naturally. The Messenger is far and away my favorite in the retro-style deluge we've been getting, and easily tops my shortlist for the best games of 2018. The combination of fluid gameplay, inspiring music, and witty writing makes Sabotage Studio's nod to the retro era an absolute must-play for old-school gamers and younger generations alike. If you like this review, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. Also, don't forget to check out the PS Best Friends podcast on podcast services around the world, dropping every Friday.